Before you listen to anyone else today, listen to this. Every victory you will ever experience starts with one quiet moment. What you say to yourself when no one is watching. Not when you're confident, not when things are going well, but when doubt is loud, results are slow, and pressure is heavy. This is not about motivation. This is about identity. Because the way you think, speak, and decide every single day is either training you to win or preparing you to quit. If you are ready to take control of your direction, your discipline, and your belief, then repeat this with intention. I am going to win. Winning is never an event that suddenly happens to someone. It is a choice that is made long before the outcome is visible. Every victory begins in the private space of decision, where a person settles the question of whether they will rise or retreat. Each day presents the same crossroads. You either decide to take responsibility for your direction or you allow circumstances to make the decision for you. Those who win are not necessarily stronger or more gifted. They are simply more intentional. They wake up with clarity about who they are becoming and what they are committed to pursuing. This decision must be renewed daily because life constantly applies pressure to wear it down. Fatigue, disappointment, delay, and comparison all try to weaken resolve. Without a conscious, repeated decision, even the most promising potential slowly erodes. A daily decision creates internal alignment. It trains the mind to expect progress, conditions the emotions to endure discomfort, and positions the will to act even when motivation is absent. When the decision is settled early, obstacles lose their power to confuse. Challenges become part of the journey rather than reasons to quit. A person who has decided to win does not negotiate with doubt every morning. The direction is already established. This is why consistency is not built on inspiration but on decision. Inspiration comes and goes, but a decision anchors behavior. When you decide daily, your habits begin to organize themselves around that choice. Your time, energy, and focus naturally move toward what supports winning and away from what weakens it. This decision also reshapes how failure is interpreted. Failure is no longer a verdict on identity, but feedback for refinement. The person who decides daily to win understands that progress is often uneven, yet the direction remains unchanged. Momentum is created not by dramatic moments, but by repeated commitment in ordinary days. Over time, this daily decision compounds into confidence, because confidence is the result of keeping promises to yourself. Each day you decide again. You reinforce trust in your own word, and that trust becomes inner strength that no external condition can easily shake. Words are not neutral sounds. They are carriers of meaning that shape perception, behavior, and identity. What you say consistently becomes the framework through which you interpret reality. Long before actions change, language changes. The human mind organizes itself around the narratives it hears most often, and the voice it hears most is its own. When words of limitation are repeated, they slowly define the borders of possibility. When words of purpose are spoken, they expand the internal horizon. Identity is not only discovered, it is constructed through belief, and belief is reinforced through language. Every repeated statement is a form of instruction given to the mind. Over time, the mind accepts these instructions as truth and begins to act in alignment with them. This is why careless words quietly sabotage potential, while intentional words quietly empower it. A person eventually behaves in harmony with how they describe themselves. If they speak as though they are weak, uncertain, or destined to fail, their decisions will unconsciously reflect that description. If they speak with intention, confidence, and direction, their behavior begins to follow that pattern. Words also influence emotional regulation. The way a situation is described internally determines whether it produces fear or focus, anxiety or determination. Language can either magnify obstacles or minimize them. When words are chosen deliberately, they become tools for self-leadership. They remind the mind of direction when emotions fluctuate and anchor identity when external feedback is inconsistent. Over time, repeated words become internal beliefs, and beliefs solidify into self-image. Self-image then governs what a person permits, pursues, or resists in life. Changing identity does not start with changing circumstances. It starts with changing the vocabulary used to interpret those circumstances. The disciplined use of words is therefore not about positive thinking, but about identity alignment. When language consistently reflects purpose and intention, the mind reorganizes itself to support that identity, shaping decisions, actions, and resilience from the inside out. Belief is the invisible framework that determines how far a person is willing to go before evidence ever appears. Results are not the starting point of transformation. They are the consequence of what has already been accepted internally as possible. Every action is preceded by belief, even hesitation and avoidance. When a person does not believe a result is attainable, the mind subconsciously searches for reasons to disengage. Effort becomes inconsistent, focus weakens, and discipline feels forced. Belief gives direction to energy. It tells the mind what is worth investing in and what is not. Without belief, talent remains dormant and opportunity passes unnoticed. With belief, ordinary actions gain momentum because they are driven by expectation rather than hope. Expectation produces preparation, and preparation creates readiness for opportunity. A person who believes does not wait to feel confident before acting. Action becomes the source of confidence. This belief is not blind optimism, but internal conviction that effort will produce growth, even if progress is slow. When belief is established first, patience becomes possible. Delay is no longer interpreted as denial, but as part of development. The absence of immediate results does not destroy commitment, because belief was never built on speed. It was built on direction. This is why belief must be formed before conditions improve. If belief depends on evidence, it will always be fragile, rising and falling with circumstances. Strong belief functions as an internal compass, keeping movement consistent even when external feedback is unclear. Over time, belief shapes behavior so thoroughly that results eventually have no choice but to follow. The mind begins to notice opportunities it previously ignored, solutions it previously dismissed, and capabilities it previously underestimated. What appears as sudden success from the outside is often the delayed visibility of belief that was established long before anyone noticed progress. Resistance is not an indication that something is wrong. It is often confirmation that something meaningful is being challenged. Anything without value rarely encounters opposition. Growth provokes resistance because it disrupts comfort, threatens old identities, and demands adaptation. When a person moves toward purpose, internal and external forces naturally push back. Fear resists change, habits resist disruption, and environments resist elevation. Interpreting resistance as failure causes many to retreat prematurely, abandoning paths that were actually aligned with their potential. Resistance tests commitment. It reveals whether a desire is casual or deeply rooted. The presence of difficulty forces clarity by stripping away superficial motivation. When progress requires sacrifice, only what truly matters remains. Resistance also exposes areas that require strengthening. Weak discipline becomes visible under pressure. Unfocused thinking becomes obvious under stress. And shallow belief is revealed when outcomes are delayed. In this way, resistance acts as a refining process rather than a barrier. It shapes resilience, sharpens focus, and deepens conviction. Purpose grows clearer through opposition because it demands intentional choice rather than emotional impulse. Each challenge encountered along the path becomes an opportunity to reinforce identity. Choosing to continue despite discomfort sends a powerful message to the mind about capability and endurance. Over time, resistance loses its ability to intimidate because it becomes familiar. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable through repeated exposure. This does not mean resistance disappears, it means perception changes. The individual no longer sees resistance as a signal to stop, but as a sign to adjust, learn, and persist. Purpose is strengthened through challenge, not protected from it. Without resistance, growth would be shallow and fragile. With resistance, capacity expands. The path that provokes the most opposition often carries the greatest potential for development because it demands the highest level of intentionality, discipline, and belief. Resistance separates intention from commitment and desire from decision. Those who learn to interpret resistance correctly stop asking why the path is difficult and start asking who they are becoming through it. Emotion is a natural response. but it is an unreliable leader. It fluctuates based on mood, environment, fatigue, and circumstance. Discipline, on the other hand, is a deliberate structure that governs behavior regardless of emotional state. When emotion is allowed to lead, progress becomes inconsistent because feelings are temporary. A person may feel motivated one day and discouraged the next, energized in the morning and depleted by evening. If action depends on emotion, momentum collapses under pressure. Discipline creates stability. It functions as an internal agreement that action will be taken even when desire is absent. This does not mean emotions are ignored. It means they are not given authority. Discipline acknowledges how one feels but chooses how one acts. It establishes routines that remove decision fatigue and reduce reliance on willpower. When discipline outruns emotion, behavior becomes predictable and results become repeatable. Over time, discipline reshapes emotional responses themselves. As consistent action produces progress, confidence grows, and emotional resistance weakens. Discipline also protects focus. Emotion often seeks comfort, distraction, or immediate relief, while discipline prioritizes long-term outcomes. This tension exists in every area of growth. Choosing discipline repeatedly trains the mind to tolerate discomfort without panic. It teaches the nervous system that effort does not equal danger. As this tolerance increases, emotional swings lose intensity. The individual becomes less reactive and more intentional. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect expressed through structure. It reflects a decision to honor future outcomes over present impulses. When discipline leads, identity stabilizes. A person no longer asks whether they feel like showing up. Showing up becomes part of who they are. This identity-based consistency transforms effort from struggle into habit. Habits, once formed, require far less emotional energy to maintain. In this way, discipline conserves energy by eliminating unnecessary internal debate. It turns growth into a system rather than a series of emotional battles. Consistency is the mechanism through which potential becomes visible. Potential exists in many people, but it remains theoretical until it is expressed through repeated action. One-time effort reveals interest. Repeated effort reveals commitment. Consistency bridges the gap between intention and outcome by converting direction into momentum. Each small action, when repeated, compounds into measurable progress. The power of consistency lies not in intensity, but in persistence. It operates quietly, often unnoticed in the early stages, which is why many abandon it too soon, without immediate results. Inconsistency feels justified. Yet results are rarely proportional to short-term effort. They are proportional to long-term repetition. Consistency creates trust in process. It reduces dependence on external validation because progress is measured internally through adherence to routine. Over time, consistency builds skill by allowing feedback to be integrated gradually. Mistakes are corrected, techniques refined, and understanding deepened through repetition. Inconsistent effort resets this learning process repeatedly, preventing mastery. Consistency also shapes identity. Repeated actions send signals to the mind about who a person is and what they value. When an action is done daily, it stops feeling like a task and starts feeling like a trait. This identity shift makes continuation easier because behavior aligns with self-image. Consistency removes the drama from growth. It replaces emotional highs and lows with steady forward movement. This steadiness is what allows potential to translate into tangible outcomes. Over time, the accumulation of small, disciplined actions produces results that appear disproportionate to the effort invested. What looks like sudden success is often the visible point of a long, consistent process that was invisible to others. Consistency does not demand perfection. It demands return. Missed days are corrected by resumed effort, not by abandonment. Through this process, potential stops being an abstract idea and becomes a lived reality expressed through sustained action. Winning is never accidental. It begins with a daily decision to move forward regardless of mood, comfort, or circumstance. Each day you choose direction over distraction, commitment over convenience, and purpose over pressure. You reinforce the path you are walking. This decision shapes your habits and determines how you respond to failure, resistance, and delay. What you consistently decide becomes what you consistently do, and what you consistently do defines who you become. Your words play a critical role in this process. The language you use internally and externally shapes your identity long before results appear. When your words align with intention, they train your mind to expect progress and endure challenge. Speech is not decoration, it is instruction. Repeated declarations become internal beliefs, and beliefs guide behavior. Over time, the way you speak about yourself determines the limits you accept or reject. Belief must come before evidence. Results follow conviction, not the other way around. When belief is established first, effort becomes consistent and patience becomes possible. Delay no longer feels like failure, but part of formation. Belief anchors action when outcomes are uncertain and keeps movement steady when progress is slow. It allows you to continue without needing constant proof that you are on the right path. Resistance is not a signal to stop. It is often confirmation that growth is taking place. Pressure reveals what needs strengthening and exposes the depth of commitment. Purpose is refined through challenge, not protected from it. Each obstacle encountered is an opportunity to reinforce discipline, sharpen focus, and solidify identity. When resistance is interpreted correctly, it becomes fuel rather than friction. Discipline must lead when emotion fluctuates. Feelings are temporary, but structure creates stability. Discipline turns intention into routine and removes dependence on motivation. It builds consistency, protects focus, and trains the mind to act regardless of comfort. Over time, discipline reshapes emotion itself, making progress more reliable and identity more stable. Consistency is what transforms potential into reality. Small actions, repeated daily, compound into measurable growth. Consistency builds skill, confidence, and momentum. It removes the drama from progress and replaces it with steady forward movement. Through consistent action, identity aligns with intention, and outcomes begin to reflect the internal work that has been taking place all along.